Please welcome member of the Board of Management of Siemens AG and Chief Human Resources Officer. Here's Janina Kugel. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Also with us today from Siemens AG, and he won the Inventor of the Year Award 2016. Here's Heiko Clausen. Welcome, Heiko.
Thank you.
And also with us, the CEO from Reingans Digital Enabler. Here's Lasse Reingans. Hi, Lasse. Have a seat. Everybody have something to drink? Great. So, how's everybody doing so far?
Yeah, we had a chat already behind the scenes, so we are actually done.
You're actually done?
Yes, we are, right?
Oh, well, that was a short panel discussion. Okay. No, but we're going to get right into the topic here, the future of work. I personally find it very interesting to think about it, and just remembering how I started off working years ago, of course, is something completely different than, for example, the challenges my children will have to face when they start working with certain environments. And as a Chief Human Resources Officer at Siemens, you're passionate, of course, about this topic, and you take the chance to talk about it. For example, you just talked about it at a conference today, at the keynote, where it was about future of work in industry. What does the term future of work mean for you, and to what extent has this topic already reached the industry?
Well, I think we're living it daily, right? I mean, everyone is impacted by that. And future of work means is like digitization. Everything that you see here in technology also has an impact on our professional lives.
Mm-hmm.
In our personal lives, I mean, using apps and everything else is already there. We're doing things totally different than 5 years ago, than 15 years ago. But then we have to learn new things.
Right.
We have to teach people new skills. We have to teach new leadership to also make it happen in the professional space.
One of the biggest challenges? Is that one of the biggest challenges?
Yeah, people are always the greatest asset, the biggest fun, and the biggest challenge for every company, I think.
And I'd like to hand the next question over to Lasse, because over the past few months, there was quite a media hype about a concept you came up with. And Lasse here from Reingans Digital Enabler has established a 5-hour workday with full pay. See his eyes in the audience. He's like, what? Where can I sign up? A 5-hour workday with full pay. And you also won the Xing New Work Award for this revolutionary approach. Maybe you could tell us a bit about how you came up with this idea, and how does it actually work in practice?
How many hours do I have? So I've been working in the digital industry for 20 years.
Right.
I had several agencies with up to 50, 60 people. And I've seen many very motivated people fail in coping with private and business life. They were motivated, they were highly skilled, and they were very loyal to the company, but they just couldn't cope with it. And the quality of work didn't increase in relation to the hours of work. So myself, I have 2 kids, lots of hobbies, lots of friends, and saw that same thing happening in my life. A decrease in work quality, although I'm very motivated and very skilled, perhaps. So I sold my shares in my former agency, sat in my garden, had some weeks to think it through, and read some books, read a lot of studies, and thought, why not just try it out? And I was in the process of buying another agency with just 10, 11 employees, and I thought I can't lose, I can either win or learn.
Wow, that's I think everybody's like, we want to know more. Like you said before, how many hours do you have? But how does it actually work in practice?
Yes, it's not like the press often says we switch off our mobile phones and just be concentrated. No, I think it happens on very different areas. It's a cultural thing, the way we communicate and interact with each other. It's a communication thing. It's trying to bring all your employees in their potential. Get coachings, get meditation, mindfulness coachings, train them wherever you can train them, and just be very open with it and have rules that everyone is committed to.
But give us an idea. How does like a regular work day? What would it look like? When do you start? When do you end?
My colleagues start at 8 and finish hopefully at 1.
Really?
Yes.
Well, what do you tell a customer if your customer's like, hey, I need this stuff by this afternoon? Is it that you tell them, well, you have to wait till tomorrow?
If we had customers asking that question, we might have to tell them yes. But it's the same in a normal 8-hour workday. What happens if the customer calls you at 5 p.m.? What happens then? It's the same question, just different, little bit different. So we have very strict planning. We have some rules with our customers as well. And right now, we used to have a telephone, what is it? A machine answering the phones after one. By now we have some emergency telephone which rarely rings because our customers know about it.
How often does your telephone ring, Janina?
At night or during the day?
Like during the day.
At night there's that one button that you can switch it off.
Right.
Right, and otherwise it's always on loud list, so I don't hear anything.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it rings permanently every day, but the thing is and that's also what we talk behind on stage, you have to make a choice, whether you answer or whether you don't answer. And there's areas and there's moments when I do not answer my phone.
Right.
I don't even get up to see who has been calling, who is calling. If we are at dinner, we are at dinner. And so far, I always say no one died because I didn't answer my phone.
Right.
I mean, I think that's...
Nice.
And no one will die.
No one will.
No one will die.
Ever.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, we all applied at Rheingans, right? But he was very skeptical with our skills.
Oh, I'm pretty sure some people are
wait for it.
searching for the address right now. So I'd like to hand the next question on to Heiko, because you and your team, you're developing autonomous machines and robotics for the digital factory of the future. And we just had a very interesting panel discussion here on stage today about the change from automation or automated machines to autonomous machines. What do you tell people when machines are becoming more and more efficient and take over more and more tasks? Couldn't we also stop working for a few hours a day and just let the machines do the rest?
I mean, it's definitely a possibility to reduce the amount of work if that's what you choose. But generally what I see is that people are very passionate about driving something to a particular goal. So you can imagine if someone, for example, owns a startup and has an idea that he really wants to make an impact. And then it's like a hobby for him. He doesn't need to go home or he's not at work. He's just where he is and he's thinking about how he can drive this idea further to make impact.
So what would you say, let me try this out. I'm going to ask the audience. Who in the audience here is actually afraid of robots taking over their jobs? Just raise your hand. Is there anybody? No? Really?
There's one.
I think they're all shy. There's one. Has anybody ever thought of, well, what would happen if they would take over? Okay. We have at least a few hands.
But you know what, when you ask that question to an ordinary audience, no one is worried like everyone here. If you ask that question actually, with the experts like Heiko is, then I would assume 95% of the people are raising their hand because they know what's actually happening. And there is a lot that will be replaced what I'm doing by a robot, right?
But I mean, in the end, it's about change. So automation hasn't just started right now. It has been going on for a long time, and this new technology is just an accelerator to this change that gives more opportunities to automate certain things. And I don't believe that fear is the right way to approach something like an uncertainty or a change. You have to own it and direct it in a way that it is productive. Because in the end, there's a reason why we are doing what we are doing, why we're automating what we're automating. For example, imagine in a healthcare space, you have either the opportunity to do it, and then you might reduce costs. And you might increase, the likelihood of the output so that you get a better assessment. So you have then the choice to, especially in an aging community, you can't afford this growing cost anymore if you want to be able to provide that service to everyone. And on the other side, do you really just, if the result is better, do you really want to risk the life of these people just because you want to keep these jobs around? And there are also many, many additional jobs that are created with such technologies on the side. So it's hard to really say and predict the future if this change is, is negative. The technology is never negative. It's just about how you're using it.
You want to say
Right now in Germany we have so many jobs where we don't have enough people in those jobs. Like healthcare, I think we are in the need of 40,000 people in healthcare alone, and we need automation, we need digitalization, because there's no one who can actually do the job. So,
in general, it's also a question of, am I on?
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. Okay. It's also a question of acceptance, right? In general, like you can have the technology, it might be great, it might have its purpose, and might, in the end game, be better, but people still have to accept it, right?
I mean, people get used to it over a while if they see what the result is better. And it's just, as I said, it's different tooling. Like, for example, there are tools now that go towards generative design. So before you were designing specifically a product, now you're just stating an optimization problem, you know? You say you want to build a chair that has to support a certain weight, that has to be produced by a particular number of machines with particular skills, use particular material, and then you press go, and then the machine proposes certain situations, certain examples to you, and then you can see, based on your experience, what is the most appealing for this use case. So it's not that the person is necessarily going away, it's just changing how he's working, and basically it's getting more efficient with these tools. Another example is, again, in the medical domain. If you want to detect cancer cells, there are like millions of cells in one biopsy. You cannot do this with a look. The doctor has like a couple of minutes to look at this, you know. So if you have a machine that looks at every single cell, you can be so much better.
Well, you also have to think sometimes, because people always believe that artificial intelligence or algorithms are always worse than human beings. But the thing is, like, I'm always talking about the unconscious bias, about all of our values that we bring into our judgment. If you ask me a question, right, then I tell you my personal experience, my personal belief, and whatever. And the same happens, for example, with doctors. They say that could never be the case. How often have we been seeing a doctor who did not come up with the right diagnosis, and we went to another one and to another one.
Right.
And so therefore, if you can actually bring all of the know-how together and all of the data, and you get the unconscious bias out of it, then you definitely have a much better result. And that's what I think we have to strive for, to actually get the data points all together, because then you do not have one doctor, but you have millions of doctors and their experiences. And on top of that, I think the transition phase is you still want to have a human being telling you maybe what is there for many different reasons, but I think that's what we have to look at.
And in order to actually achieve that, once again, collaboration, I guess, is key, right? I mean, that's also one of the reasons we're sitting here together right now. And you just brought up something talking about changing demands and values. I guess you know these topics, especially when you think of young generations that aren't willing to work the way I'd say the previous generations were used to working. What is Siemens doing to meet these demands? Would a 5-hour concept be applicable to Siemens as well?
Well, I think I'm running a huge risk if I say yes today, right?
Let's see the Siemens employees here in the audience. They're all like, yes!
But you know, I think
I have
it's
some
like...
bets with the press going on.
Okay.
Some bets, yeah.
No, but the thing is, I actually believe that we're coming to much more flexibility. And I mean, I think it's like what Lasse was also indicating. There is days when 5 hours work easily. There is other days where it doesn't work. And there is days where you don't want to, like Heiko said, because you want to solve an issue or something like that.
Right.
So I am actually much in favor of flexibility of work. And then the question is like, could we afford to pay fully for all of our employees by 5 hours only? I don't think so. I have to admit that.
Right.
But on the other hand, I think the flexibility should come. And by the way, it's not a request of the younger generation only. It's a request of everyone. The only difference that I would make, the Gen Z or Gen Y is much more eager of addressing what they want and making as a precondition than maybe we would have done it or I would have done it. But I think the flexibility, if you allow that, and that's a huge cultural shift that we are also running through, then I think it works. Not everyone wants the same thing.
Flexibility in terms of, you mean like, for example, home office
yeah, I mean, you know, we have hopefully different things to do in life other than working.
Right.
You know, we have families, we have hobbies, we have sports.
Right.
And if you allow people to do anything else in between during the day, then they usually pay you back big time, because if you give them the flexibility. And flexibility also means once in a while you want to have 2 months off or whatever to do something else. That's what I mean.
So I guess in the end, it's still up to the individual, though, to actually be productive in these, let's say, 5 hours? Because I guess that's one of the big differences. You can work for 2 hours on a project, and you can work for 8 hours on a project and have the same outcome. I guess that all depends on the individual, right? Once again, probably one of the biggest challenges is when you have to deal with people, right?
Yes.
So learning on the job, upskilling, and even reskilling, as you would call it, will become more important in the future. How is Siemens making sure that its employees stay employable for the future? What is there in place?
Well, obviously, the beauty of us is that we have, for example, a digital learning platform where people can log in, do a little of a self-test of like, what do they know, what don't they know. But the interesting thing is that if we have 380,000 people, but we only have 150,000 that have yet accessed, right? So my challenge is much more like people that have been finishing their education, that they do understand that we have to continuously learn new things, and that this is not happening by 1 hour of classroom training or 1 week to go there, but that's a continuous job. And most of the people my age, they think it's like, I'm done, I have reached a certain level, why should I learn something else? Or an exam or a test. I mean, how many years is it ago that you had to pass the last exam? And I think that's the part of like self-driving and thinking about what I'm always trying to teach my children. We're not learning, or you're not learning for your teacher or for school, but for yourself.
It's for yourself.
And I think that's what we also have to apply for everyone else. I always like to say, if you do not retire within the next year, you are sure that you have to learn new things. And that applies for every one of us sitting here.
Anything you'd like to add to that? Same to you, Lasse?
I think you need people that are really highly motivated for their job and in the right position. If you can position the people in the right position, they are by themselves. They want to learn. They want to get better. And you said something about creativity. Creativity can't be forced. You can't force creativity during an 8-hour workday. And what I experience when my colleagues go home at 1 p.m., sometimes the best idea comes at home. Just as you know, having your best ideas in your holidays. And that's something that I didn't expect, but I realize right now with the 5-hour workday, the next day they come back into office with the best idea they've ever had.
Heiko, you're working for Siemens in the US, right?
Yes.
What differences are there? Let's say, I mean, for example, the US is also known for their open collaboration mentality. Is there a difference that you can recognize between the mentality there and here in Germany?
I mean, it's hard to put everyone into one box. I mean, I can't speak for the US, but I can tell you what I observed. I've been there for a little bit more than 12 years now. And I mean, it's a very collaborative environment that I'm working there on, particularly also in this innovation accelerator that I'm working with to bring the autonomous machines into reality. And we're collaborating with strongly with the university network with Siemens. We have a very strong university network, including MIT, Stanford, Berkeley, Carnegie Mellon, and so on. And also with startups. So we are also showing one of our demonstrator where we have implemented an algorithm of a startup that originated from Berkeley University's ambidextrous labs, just to get the cutting edge that is developed there from passionate people that want to drive their idea further and bring it into products to close this gap that often exists between research and that product. And I think that in the US, people are very open to such collaborations and to bring the pieces together and be agile and a little bit out of the box on how these things are combined.
Very open and collaborative. Also, our Minds for Lounge up on the first floor. I have to invite you all over there. If you didn't get a chance to check that out yet, please do so. I mean, that is the perfect example for open collaboration. The open cloud-based IoT platform with its partners, definitely something to check out later on. What would you say about collaboration, open collaboration? The differences, maybe cultural.
Well, I think there is, cultural differences, I think you can only picture if you stereotype it, right? And stereotyping is like, as Heiko said, is of course not reflecting everyone. But I think Germany and Germans have more the culture of like, we deliver everything super perfect, it's 100% quality, sometimes even 110%, and then we launch it.
Right.
But the point is, if the world is really quick, right? if you launch something and you say it's not yet perfect, but we're testing it and we are actually fixing it while we're going, you're much faster and you get much more feedback of like doing that. But the thing is, if you announce it, I mean, so for example, we have a bot that we are using for our work in HR. So usually people go to an HR person and say, I have a question, right? How can I see how many holidays I have and how can I go on a sabbatical and all of that? And we have a bot, artificial intelligence, that is actually replacing that part.
Right.
So we have 600,000 queries a month where people are actually asking questions. So that learns quite a lot. And here you actually see when we launched it in one language with the first bunch of people. And that, of course, did not really produce the results that we wanted to have. But now we have 250,000 people online, and it gets better every day. And I think that's what people fully understood. They say is like, it's a trial, we take it, and we do it. But I think that's a cultural difference. And I also believe that, of course, there is a few countries where quality of life is comparatively good. People are more scared that they're losing maybe the welfare and the freedom of their lives and all of it. And there's other countries where people are super hungry to get much more in a state of like where they can afford certain things. And I think that's the competition that we have in the world.
Are there any questions here in the audience? Anybody? Don't be shy. This is the chance. Anybody? Just raise your hand. I know everybody's going to go home and be like, why didn't I just... A question over here. All right. Christina will get a microphone over to you. Oh, right here. Okay.
Hello. Hello. From Turkey. I'm Borj. By the way, just a question for maybe Ms. Kugel. Is there any possibility to reduce the working hour to 5 for Siemens? I'm also working for Siemens.
Well, let me say it like that. You can reduce your working hours to 5. The question is only, will we continue to pay you 100%? And that's what I said is like, so far we're not yet at that point. I fully admit it. If you want that, then hopefully you have the right skills to apply at Lasse to actually do that. So, but I think it's actually a scenario that we're coming to. And I think the question is really how productive will we be? But I have to disappoint you, not yet.
We're going to hand the microphone over to another member in the audience.
I actually had a couple of different ones, so I'm sort of looking which one. I think in the question of automation, we all know that a lot of automated systems, not only robots, but also like the HR bot, are going to take over a lot of the work that human beings are doing. And every panel that I've heard today talking about it talks about continuous learning and upskilling and reskilling. And I think about people who are in their 50s who are working in manufacturing, who have been through 3 massive waves of different kinds of automation and have upskilled and reskilled. And at some point you might get a little bit tired of continuously having to learn. Maybe not us in the room, but I also think a society is made up of a lot of different kind of people. And I worry a lot about what is going to happen to the people who just want to have a job because they need money to live, and they don't want to be an innovative, continuous learning, passionate. Yeah, what's going to happen? I know that's a society question and not a question that an individual company can solve, but I would like to know what you guys' opinion is.
Good question.
I think the discussion around basic income is just because of that. Because there are people that can't cope with that speed of upskilling, reskilling, and so on. And I'm a big fan, because I think as a rich society, we have to take care of those people.
Well, my answer would be differently, because you were saying is like there's a lot of people that are working on the shop floors that maybe are tired. I would actually tell you that's not the case, at least with the people that we know and that we have that are working on the shop floors. Because the point is like also if you give them more freedom and if there is much more automation, then they can actually also bring something else to work. And we have seen that this is also really good. But you're absolutely right. I mean, not every individual will actually think that there's an opportunity in it. But the question for me is always how do you tell people what's in there for them? And if you say, I mean, my father a while ago was reading an interview and he said, it's like, I'm so thankful that I have retired already because then I would have to do everything that you're telling, right? So I think that is definitely true. But on the other hand, if you're 50, that's not that old, at least I don't think that's that old, right? then you still have another 15, 17 years to go. And you need to keep employable unless you're lucky enough not having to work anymore. So the question is like, how do you get there? In last sentence, jobs do not change dramatically, totally from one day to the other by digitization. Things are changing slowly, and usually you can upskill people by actually continuously investing in them. And mostly it's also more fun.
Thank you very much for those answers. Do we have one more?
Good afternoon. Thank you for having this panel. You guys spoke about the future of work. I just wanted to understand what are the most sought after skills in the workforce right now that you guys are going ahead with, and besides programming, of course. Would you guys be able to comment on it from a human resource point of view, of course, in automation and digital and electrical? Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, there's a very strong demand on the skills direction to machine learning. So you see that how other competitors are going to pay people for, and that have capabilities to make self-driving cars and whatever. So you've read a lot of press about that. So there's definitely a shortage of the skills in the market.
Awesome.
I think I'm always looking for people that can connect different fields and think for themselves and don't just reply with yes or no. Give me more ideas, free minds, disruptive ideas.
Okay. And the interesting thing is we are not only looking for people out of the IT area, so for example, welders, okay, is something that we're searching everywhere in the entire world. So it really, I think it depends. And then, for example, something that's out of our usual industry is, for example, people in social care, in elder care, nurses, all of that. Doctors are in many countries are running out. So I wouldn't really see that there is that one thing. So I would not give a recommendation to people that are 15 today, this is what you should study, or this is the education you would go, because I think in 10 years it will be totally different again.
Thank you very much for the questions. Looking at the time, we have a red number. It says 000 blinking in our faces, and that means our time is up. Ladies and gentlemen, can we give a big round of applause to my guests here on stage? Janina, Heiko, and Lasse. Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
Looking forward on learning more about the future of work and maybe another panel in the future.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Siemens. Ingenuity for life.